Good evening, everyone. This is Michelle Wedderburn for Wind Down Wednesdays here in San Miguel de Allende. I am the founder of Casa ELM Boutique Guest House and also Hacienda ELM, which is a 60-plus community here in San Miguel. And I basically help people who want to have a soft landing space in Mexico, relocate. I do relocation tours. I assist individuals with group events and things like that. That's what Boutique Guest House is all about here in San Miguel de Allende. So I wanted to tonight spend a little bit of time focusing on just kind of the things that are important to being in community and connecting with folks once you make a decision to move abroad. So this month, this is what we're going to focus on, and I'll explain that a little bit better. But if you have not been here to my channel before, please make sure that you subscribe. If you have and you've already subscribed, make sure you hit the like button on this video, share, spread the word, all the things. I have lived in San Miguel for over 7 years, and I absolutely love it here in Mexico. I've traveled in and out of Mexico for over 20 years almost. I believe it's close to 20 years. So my experiences here have really been a lot of boots on the ground, different parts of Mexico, and I can honestly say that I really, really enjoy my life here, and I'm grateful for the path that I get to walk in this regard and all the things that I get to do to help people who are interested in relocating to San Miguel. In addition to that, just, the community that I have been able to be a part of and the journeys that basically have come out of those meetups and those groups and all the things. It's been really, really special, and I've never felt that I've walked any more in my purpose in life than this chapter. And so I'm very grateful for that, and I'm grateful for everyone who shows up to be a part of this, either in person at Casa ELM, to an event, that the meetups that we have in town every month, and or anything else, relocation, all the things. I really appreciate you all. So I just want to say that first. And then I will say hello to everyone in the chat. If you're here and you haven't said anything yet, please do check in. Let people know if you want to share where you're checking in from. Hi, Khadijah. How are you? Hi, Cheryl. How are you, amiga? Hey, Miss Delia. How's it going? Thank you. Thank you. I decided to go a little minimalist tonight so I put the eyeliner instead of on the bottom, I put it on the top. Going back to my Miami days. Hi, Michelle, how are you? Michelle Watson is our Miss Ingenuity, and she is here to, I'm going to talk about her tea in a moment, her teas in a moment. Also, Sharon, hi, hello. How are you? Welcome. Hi, Julie. How are you? Welcome. Hey, Scott. How's it going? ¿Cómo estás? And Kadisha's checking in from DC. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate you checking in. If you have questions tonight, feel free to ask them. If I'm forgetting anything, nothing new there. Just drop it in the chat, and I'm going to keep an eye on it so that we can review anything if you have questions that you want to ask. So my normal format is to just do my housekeeping things and then get into tonight's topic. Once again, it's the power of community and connection. And I'm realizing this even more and more and more, that it's super important. Hi, Angel. How are you? What's up? Amigos y amigas, how are you? Sharon, thank you for checking in from New York. Awesome, checking in from New York. Okay, look at you guys all spread out everywhere. Hopefully you'll come together in San Miguel and get to meet all of us in person at some point. But what I wanted to focus on is, I said, the power of community and connection. Now, I have talked about this before, but I just wanted to kind of talk about it again because I think it's important to continuously make people aware of why this is something that really helps you transition into living abroad. I know there are a lot of people out there who are already assisting with relocation things, you name it, how to do it, how to earn money, how to connect with things that kind of help you get set up and established. But there's a lot to be said about once you go to a place. I've had so many conversations with people. I had a group meet yesterday with some individuals who are here and that live here. And one of the things that they said to me, which I see all the time, is that a lot of people will, look into how do I get there? How do I do it? They might buy the tools and all the types of things, but maybe only much smaller percentage of those individuals are more motivated to actually make the move. And we were kind of talking through some of that. And for me, I think one of the things that I think people fall into is just not knowing if they're going to be able to have like a whole new set of friends, a new tribe, and all of those types of things. And I think it's really important to keep talking about these things as factors because it is a psychological challenge that can somehow spiral you into spaces, mental spaces that are not always comfortable. And so I want to talk about that a little bit and just why it's important for you to figure out who you are as a person, what and how you see things when you travel, maybe, and then if you plan to move, what does that look like for you, and how realistic is it that that city that you're choosing to move to lives up to those expectations, and also how much are you willing to kind of kick back and just embrace the overall experience as opposed to maybe, just parts of it. And then when the challenges come, it can be overwhelming. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about that tonight as well. Before we get into that, thank you all again for those who checked in. I'm just going to say, I don't know how to say this name, so welcome to 54. You said I have the same, hold on a second. Oh, the room divider. Yes, I have literally had this since, okay, so 54 says that I have the same room divider, which is my Buddha in the back. It's a three panel room divider that I actually use as a piece of art because I'm actually in my yoga area. And then Leatha from Indiana, welcome. Angels, yes, creating community when I relocate abroad is a big concern of mine. Absolutely, I agree. And again, knowing who you are, so what works for you. So I'll get into that in a moment. I'm not going to jump into it just yet, but I just want to say that it's really important for us to sit with ourselves before we move, sit with our families, and sit with everything that we can and really think through this. Because once you start packing, making plans, calling the movers, taking the trips and all the things, you're really now doing like that initial step, right? Which is busy work and getting there and getting it done. But before you do that, I think it's a good idea if you can sit with yourself in spaces and really be quiet and listen to, is this, how do I envision this? How do I see this? And as I always say as well, if you can go to the place and visit where you're interested in living and moving to, I think that's also very important. So we will get into that a little bit deeper, but before we do, I want to share, and I hope this comes through on the chat, a link that was talking about Hacienda very quickly. So Hacienda, for those who are new here, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, please. Thank you, I appreciate you. But Hacienda Elm is my newest passion project, my love project, whatever you want to call it. And it is a community that has been created for 60 plus, and the community concept is something that was derived even from the experiences that I have here at Casa ELM. And those experiences are how people come together in spaces that have been created, how those spaces make people feel, and how people feel when they leave those spaces. And that's one thing with Casa for me that's really important, is always, and I talk a lot about having good energy, always having good energy in the space. And for me, that's really important because I believe that we are connected, all of us are connected in some way, right? We're connected through our stories, we're connected through our experiences, we're connected through our backgrounds or things that we've shared along the way in our personal lives that somehow can intermingle at some point, right? And so for me, I think that this is one of those spaces that kind of helps people come together that have similar mindsets. And those similar mindsets are starting with, I really want to live in San Miguel, or I want to live abroad, I want to live in Mexico. And then from there, I think you can grow a lot of things. You can grow a great community of friends and your tribe and all those types of things. And when I say tribe, I'm even including the local people who will help you make it make sense. So basically, with the 60 plus community is the same concept, but a more longer term thing. So what I decided to do about a week and a half or two ago is, and this was based on conversations, and I believe I mentioned it last week, is I'm doing a try it on program for anyone who's interested. I've already had several people who want to come for the rest of the year to Hacienda Elm, and the programs are one plus months. So you can come for 1 month, 2, 3 months, or whatever, and really try it on. And the offer itself is also a little bit less than what our original price structure was. And I'm saying that because it is something I think that people have to kind of try to make sure it's a good fit for them. And we also are making sure that you're in community where you actually want to be, as opposed to feeling locked into something. So we've had quite a few people that are really curious about September, October, November, December. So basically September through the end, actually through March of next year. So the point is we have this program, and I'm just going to drop the link, and I hope it works. If it doesn't immediately link, please just copy and paste from the HTTPS area, and then you should be able to get to it. And this is going to give you the information about the introductory offer and what it includes. It gives you a sample agenda for the month to kind of give you a general idea of what kinds of things we want to have in terms of activities. So each week we're focused on something specific. Like 1 week we're focused on wellness, another might be art and culture and things like that. Okay, so please do check it out. And here it is. And you can link to it and share with anyone if it's not for you specifically and someone mentions that it might be for them. Please do share. Okay, we're all about sharing. Share your information and knowledge and all that where possible, wherever possible. I want to say thank you to Michelle from Ingenuity and Spice Company as our official tea sponsor for both Casa ELM and also for Hacienda. And here is her link and contact, and please do check out her amazing book that she recently authored, and there's a lot of health benefits that you can find there as well. Okay. And you all have been asking me about Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, which is happening here in Mexico on November the 2nd. And finally, it's here. Anne Marie from Ball Girl Will Travel. She is doing, we both are doing a group event, which I believe is sold, like it's closed. You cannot buy into that group event unless you contact her directly. I'm not sure. But as of right now, she put together a day pass, and there are very limited amount of spaces because it's a full day of activities. So if you are interested in this, for those who've asked, because I've had several people ask me about that, this is the link for you to get your tickets. And I suggest if you're in San Miguel, you plan on doing this with us, that you get those tickets. I'll do a quick run over of what it will be. So I believe we're starting in the morning. I don't know exactly what time, but the first hour will be dedicated to us honoring and remembering our loved ones that have passed on, because that is the whole point of the holiday. Following that, we're going to have tons of fun. We'll have makeup artists that will be here at Casa ELM doing the Katrina. So you'll need to decide like how you want your Katrina face to look. You have to go on Pinterest and figure that out. But you can have a lot of fun with it. Then we're going to have maybe 3 or 4 makeup artists, maybe even 5, that will do our makeup. There will be food and drinks all day long. We will have some music, and there will be a videographer and a photographer, and we'll have individual shots taken, and we'll also have group shots taken. And for those who followed me for a few years, you will be able to know that we've done this before. We've had a lot of fun. I think the first year that I really committed to doing a full group thing, we had about 13 or 14 ladies that came, and it was really a good time. And then the second year, I think I had around the same number, 10 or 12 maybe. I can't remember, but it's always a good time. And so this year, Anne-Marie's kind of the one that's in charge of everything, and you can check out the tickets for that. And as I said, it's a full day thing. After we do all of the photography, the eating, drinking, the remembering, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, we're going to get picked up from Casa ELM, and we will be taken to Central to join the parade. And that's going to be around like 6. And the parade, I don't know what time it ends. I think well into the night. And it's packed. It's a great time to experience San Miguel. You can see the altars. You can even, I believe, go into our symbolic church, which is the parroquia. And I believe that they open downstairs, which they never have open in general. But I think during this holiday, they open downstairs underneath the church, and you can go down there. And I'm not really sure what's down there, but it's something that you can go and check out. Okay. So if that's for you, please join. Also, we do have still spaces in our October meetup, which is our annual meetup here in San Miguel. We have VIP spaces here at Casa ELM, and we also have general admission tickets. I did a webinar this past Monday that went over a lot of the things that will happen during that 3-4 day weekend. And what it was like last year, and all the things that are the differences between the general and the VIP, but just kind of really talking through some of the things that are essential, like what to wear, how to dress, which walking shoes, and all those types of things. So you can check that out here if this is of interest to you as well. And let's see. There was something else I wanted to say about that in particular. Oh, there is another webinar that I'm doing for that specifically on, I believe it's August the 18th, and I did not put it in my notes, but if you go to my events page, and I'm going to drop that link, and on the events page, you can find it there if you're interested in signing up for that for more information. That will be the last one that I'm going to do before the event in October. And on the events page is everything. I've already added a lot of stuff for 2026. So yeah, check it out when you get a chance. And finally, I want to share that Micah, my son, teaches conversational Spanish, and Scott is one of his very loyal clients. Thank you for that. I appreciate you. He is getting a better handle on being a great teacher and in charge of his things. So This is good for him. So if that's of interest to you, this is conversational Spanish taught by Micah. It definitely has a lighter feel in terms of, you don't have to feel intimidated because, yeah, he's not gonna be too harsh on you because he's just not. Hey, Angel. Let's see, I want to go back and welcome a few people. Uh, Yes, 54. I hope you don't mind me calling you that. 60 plus here, but planning on Colombia. Yeah, I don't know what hair is. Is that where you? I'm going up to see if there was a, if you listed. Okay. Yeah. Colombia, I mean, maybe they don't have this already. So I think it's a great concept, especially as you start getting around a lot of older expats that have retired. There's a lot of room, I think, for care. So yeah, that sounds great. The classy hacker, welcome, buenas tardes. And keeping an open mind about, I guess you mean Colombia. So, okay. Yeah, I haven't been to Colombia. I've been to some other countries south of Mexico, but I have not been to Colombia. I should say South Mexico, but yeah, not exactly. But I hope to get there one of these days soon. Okay, let's get into our topic. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Hi, Kicking It with Kim, Redefining Hustle. Hi, Michelle and friends. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. So, the power of community, connection, and all the things. So one of the things I want to say, and I talk about this a lot, is the soft landing with Casa ELM. So the reason why it's a soft landing, and people say this to me all the time, is because it's a safe space, right? And safe spaces can not just only represent a physical space, it can also represent how you feel in terms of being in a country, how you feel in your mind about being in that country. I've had a lot of conversations with people that have stereotypes about things, and it makes them kind of maybe a little hesitant to try a trip to Mexico, or hesitant to move, full on move. So back to what I always say is, when you know who you are, you can kind of, know how you push your limits and get comfortable with things. And I do believe that when you can kind of land in a group setting of some sort that appeals to you, whatever that is, whether it's the type of foreigners that already live in this abroad city or place for you, a broad country, that seems like you fit into that. That is really important. I think that that's the icebreaker in your mind. And I think that is really important and key for us to, again, go back to sitting with ourselves, meditate a little bit about whatever you call it, meditate, pray about it, embrace it. And what does that look like for you? Or what does that look like for you and your spouse, or you and your family? I think it's really important to just think that through a little bit. And if you do have the opportunity to go to the place, and think through it as well while you're there. How does this place make me feel? Do you have a, oh yeah, heck yeah, this is it moment? Did you go to a few places? Are you kind of a little hesitant and you're not sure? And oftentimes what will kind of push people even closer to making those decisions is having like an experience or experiences that kind of shows them, what does this look like once I land in this place, right? Because some of us, I'm going to say, if I had to pick out of 100 people, I would say there's probably 25, maybe 30% of those people who are actually adventurous and will get up and go and do that. There are like maybe another 20% who will do it with someone else, or they will do it because they're comfortable with, a situation that they can have a soft landing experience. And then there are others who are just going to kind of sit back and think about it, think it through. They may eventually do it. Maybe something comes up in their life that pushes them towards doing that because they always wanted to, and now maybe, they're a little bit older and they're just like, oh crap, like I wanted to do this 10, 20, 30 years ago and I didn't. Even today I had a couple that stayed with me today, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, stayed with me for a day or two. And she was saying to me that she wishes that she had done something similar with her two sons who are, grown up now. And she was just kind of like, the way she said it, I felt it. I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't anything like sad or, it was just the way she said it was like, I wish I had done this before, so kudos to you. And I'm not saying this as a, hey, I did this with my kid, look at me. I'm saying it in the way that sometimes there's so many like external things that can throw us off from making that final decision, or we've always wanted to, but maybe we didn't feel like we were going to be supported. But now we're in such a space with all this digital information that we can actually go and look online and really get a good feel for what is this experience potentially going to be for me, and then be able to go to a place. And that's what I love about being here and having like the space to be able to bring people in, where it's kind of like I envisioned this, or I talked about it, I mulled it around, and now I'm here, or I'm in the city, right? Because the city is a community as well, especially San Miguel. It is really community based. So I feel that that is so key, and for you to get in that space, and even if you're introverted and all the things, to do things that you enjoy. It doesn't mean overwhelm yourself. It doesn't mean you have to go out and check every single, event and every musical thing and accept every single invitation unless you actually want to. You can go for it. But if it's something that you feel, I like it here, and they have, five things that I really enjoy doing, I can actually have access to those five things. So in the end, I think that that's what's key for that decision. It's one of the number one things in my opinion. And that's the reason why I call Casa a safe space. It just kind of has naturally evolved into being a space where people can come. It's a soft haven. I'm here, I'm able to give you my experiences and my input, my advice on things, moving around the city, whatever that might be, navigating through your own transitions. Everyone's transition is going to be a little bit different. So before I get a little deeper, so this month, my goal is to talk about all the not all, but to talk about relocating, right? What does that look like? So tonight I'm talking about the connection and community, and we're going to go through our points here. Next week, I'm actually bringing two guests on who are local to Mexico. One is, both of them actually do and help with relocation one is in Merida, and the other person is someone who does transportation worldwide, actually. And I want to, yes, I'm keeping my fingers crossed because he committed to it, but I always like to, make sure, like, are you coming? Are you showing up? Yes. So he's on my agenda those two are going to be on together next week, Wednesday, to talk about the different things that people kind of go through. How do you prepare yourself from a relocation, actual physical relocation, moving? What are the things that people tend to run into? What kind of challenges they will have there? The following week, I'm planning on interviewing Krishan, who is in Portugal, and also Charlotte Van Horn, who is in Panama, and just kind of the programs that we offer, because these things really can help you be prepared and get prepared. And sometimes, yes, people will say, oh, I can't pay for that thing, or they can't afford that thing. And sometimes I say to myself, well, that's understandable and I respect it. But a lot of times people pay a lot more money out because they didn't get help. And I'm not here trying to sell you anything, honestly. I'm just saying I've seen this happen so many times, and I've seen people spend way more than, a consultation or even one of my tours trying to fix and rectify things that they've run into. And a lot of times that will just throw people off. I've seen it throw people off, and it's not easy, it can be, to me, it's an emotional trauma over the money. It's more of an emotional trauma. It's kind of like, this is not what I expected, just like kind of maybe you woke up with this fantasy of, I'm going to live in San Miguel. I'm just saying San Miguel because it's where I live. And I'm going to walk around town. I'm going to check out all the cool boutiques. I'm going to go on a rooftop. I'm going to go to the coffee shops and all that stuff. And then when you get here, 3 or 4 things just go completely awry and throws you off, and your psyche and your emotions. Maybe it throws off for some, maybe some financial things, or some people may feel stranded and stuck. Whatever it is, it can happen. And it's like the more you're prepared for that, and the more support you can have, and the more things you can connect to, you can actually reach out and say, oh, I really need help with this. As opposed to maybe feeling stressed, maybe I'm not the most outgoing person in the world. I don't really want to show up on Facebook, because I know a lot of folks who say, I don't have a Facebook account. I get it. I know. But you know what? When you move abroad, that's what people use. It's a tool. It doesn't mean you have to be out there posting your stuff if you don't want to, your personal pictures and your business and your travels and all that. Or you can even make a name that's not you if you just really are in a place or position where you don't want people to know that you're coming here. I understand that. However, I want to say that it is one of the places that you can get the most information, and you will get that most information by joining those groups that are in the place or city of interest for you. Okay. Hi, Delia. Thank you. So Delia says, it sure was a soft landing. Thank you. Would not have had such a seamless experience without you, Casa ELM, and all the lovely people I met through you. I appreciate that so much. And it's truth. I feel like we are the boots on the ground after the research, after doing all the online things, that this is a space where it comes full circle. Sometimes I may not talk about those things enough, but I'm realizing that this is kind of like that end point. Even if, you're not doing necessarily a program, it is that end point where you can come and you can definitely get, situated and get the help and things like that you need to get yourself on the right track. So what else is real? Chosen family, right? Because a lot of times we are leaving our loved ones behind. I had a recent guest, she was sweet as pie, Miss Julie. And Miss Julie, we had such a great time with her, and she was expressing just kind of like, it's me, right? And I don't have any immediate family that, is still here. It's here as in, with her, living close to her, or that's still, alive, or so on and so forth. And this is one of those scenarios where you can choose your family. You're going to say, I'm, choosing this group of people that I enjoy being around. Does it have to be a big group? No, absolutely not. I see lots of little niches and little tribes of people off of the, grander, bigger scheme of things. So I believe that people can come here and really find friends, whether they are locals or foreigners, it doesn't matter. You do have to make a bit of an effort, but I don't think it's difficult to do that. As I said, find little things that you enjoy doing and knowing yourself. There are some who are just introverted and, they're okay with that, and that's okay too. Maybe there are just certain things that they want to experience, and or maybe there are certain circles that they want to be in or not be in. What's important is what is and who is my chosen family once I move abroad, right? They don't have to look like you. They don't have to necessarily speak and understand your background or everything about you and or how you are. But I do think those experiences can change you into being more integrated into the community, and it really helps, when you're living abroad. It really does. You may have similar values. It creates a support system for anything that might go awry. If you just say, today was tough, because I have those days. I know how to navigate them a lot more because I find myself not like kind of leaning more into the culture in terms of not worrying, like, easing off of the anxiety, I think, of how we approach things, maybe coming from the US, oh, this didn't work. And, or I didn't hear back from these people and, or whatever. I think I've gotten into a rhythm right now, not fully, but I'm in a rhythm where I'm a little bit more laid back. And oftentimes when things become a little bit overwhelming or stressful or whatever the case might be, it's really easy for me to just be like, you know what? I'm gonna worry about this tomorrow, and tonight I'm just gonna go to sleep because tomorrow's another day. And I'm gonna give you an example of too why I think things potentially may be amplified. Now, maybe not everyone, believes in this, but this is how I feel about it. And so I want to share this. So on Sunday, this past Sunday, we had a sister circle, which we tried to do monthly. It doesn't always happen, but we had a sister circle. And one of the things that came up was, and you all have probably heard this before, is that San Miguel is, on top of rose quartz, and that's why the energy is so good and people get along and all the things. And I do really truly believe that. But I also believe that when things go awry and we don't get along, or something goes the wrong way in our lives here abroad in San Miguel, that same energy amplifies that situation for us emotionally. Now, that might be a bit far-fetched for some, but I do believe it works in both ways. And so for myself, I always have like that mental note, that mental check that says, okay, why are you feeling extra about this right now? And I think about where I live. I think about, where I'm located. I think about, the town and all the things. And when I'm happy, I'm happy. And when I'm not happy, it's like, okay, why is this so, much of a big deal? And I also think about what time of day is it? Am I really tired? And do I need to get some rest? And so in saying that, having your community of people around you, there might be a friend that you could call and just say, you know what, I wasn't feeling my best today, physically, emotionally, whatever it might be. These are the things that we have back at home, typically, right? We have someone typically that we can call, that we can talk to, that we can share how our day was. And it's no different here, right? Just because some of your community may not speak English well, they probably would be there for you too, right? Sandra knows when I'm just tired and exhausted, and she's just super like intuitive. And there are times when you'll have those kind of relationships where, yeah, she and I can communicate, but just the understanding, like, you know what, today was really messed up and I feel this way today. And so I just want to say that it's really important that you think about, how do I have a chosen family when I move abroad, right? Not just friends, but people that you can say, you know what, I have my inner circle, because I actually do. I love what I do, but I do have an inner circle, and my inner circle supports me. They check on me. We check on each other. They're always telling me to get rest, to slow down, all the things, but they do check on me, and we do things together as time allows us to. So it's really important that even though you don't have maybe blood relatives per se coming with you, that this is something that you lean into, okay? I think it's really important for us to consider that when you're moving. Like, how easy was it if I took a trip? How easy was it for me to make some friends in that short period of time? How did I feel speaking to those people, etc. Okay. Hi, Julie. Yes, Casa ELM. I'm reading these out. Yes, Casa ELM was a great way to further explore Mexico. My conversation with Michelle shed a different light. Casa ELM is truly a space of grace and peace. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. It was wonderful having you here. Absolutely. So Julie and my mom, they went out and hung out on the town. They were so cute because it didn't dawn on me until they left that they went to the Tuesday market and neither one of them really spoke Spanish. And I think it didn't dawn on me really until like after a couple hours. And I said, oh, and I was like, well, okay, I'm sure they have their cell phones. They're going to make it back okay. And my mom does not use apps. She does not text. She doesn't use WhatsApp or anything. But Julie had it all under control. And then the next day, they were literally in Central hanging out, doing their thing. So just in those few short days, this is just another example of them being able to connect and then get out there. Maybe saw a few other people that were out there as well. But just telling you that it exists here, okay? Why belonging heals us. That's the other thing I want to talk about. I think it is definitely something. I think when we either have our circle back home, that it really, even though things may feel heavy, as I said in point number 2, when you have like that feeling of like belonging in something, it does heal. It does make you feel, wanted, seen, heard, embraced, all the things. So I want people to understand that that's really important. Being heard, being accepted in a community. It is so easy, in my opinion, to be accepted here because really I feel that everyone that comes here, we're all on a reset, if that makes sense. We're all on a reset, right? We are doing something really, really drastically different than the people that we're leaving behind, okay? And when I say leaving behind, meaning, those who may look at you and say, oh my God, that's awesome. I really want to experience that with you. Can I come and visit you, etc., right? And then there's those who are, more skeptical, and we tend to run into that probably a bit more, right? There are lots of folks like myself where it's like, okay, I didn't quite fully share this until I was already here, or I was already coming, or I was already arriving at some point in the near future. And when we don't feel understood in this regard, I think it's a little bit harder because we're leaving that behind. But when we go to a place where we feel like, you know what, these people get me because they've done it, it's a big deal, right? You want to feel that you're part of something. You're part of kind of like this group that made these decisions. Again, doesn't mean you're going to like everybody. No, not at all. It's not about that. But it is about getting here and being able to find people that are like-minded, that share those values. It helps you not to feel like you are isolated. That is a big deal, okay? Because you can still be around people sometimes and still feel isolated. I remember way back in the late 90s, and I would travel to Europe, and I was always hanging around Europeans that once we went out to dinner, like in a dinner group or whatever, and some of them spoke the language, or I should say some of them spoke English because they were definitely speaking their language, but some of them spoke English. And I remember one time being at this dinner where there was just like a bunch of people, and the more they started to drink, of course, they're going to be speaking in their language. And I remember feeling very left out and very, very isolated. But I do think all of these experiences have trained me personally for living abroad and why I had no issues moving to Mexico, And so just all of the things that I think about in my travels and all that has really prepared me for being in this space and also understanding, having a lot of empathy towards that newness of things. But I remember feeling very isolated in some of these scenarios. And it wasn't intentional, but that's how I felt because communication is key. And I'm a communicator. That's what my degree is in. And so for me, being able to communicate is key and to express myself in places where I feel safe to do so. I think that that is huge. And that's a part of this healing that I'm talking about. So how am I healing in this? Because I came to this space because I didn't want to live here anymore for whatever my reasons were. I want to be over here. And sometimes we're coming over to these new spaces because we need that reset. As I said, we all came maybe to have the reset. We came to try something else. We came to explore that idea we had about living abroad, maybe when we were younger, but we couldn't because of commitments or whatever the case might be. And or now we see ourselves aging, our bodies are aging, and we still are like, you know what, I still have some great years left in this body, and I now want to make this move. I want to do this while I still can. And so that is a whole reset because now you're changing every single thing that you're used to, right? You're changing your routine. You're changing, and when I say your routine, meaning, oh, I know there's a Whole Foods up the store, and I know there's a mall up the store, and I know I can order from Amazon, and it's going to get here in 2 days, no problem, and A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? And when you come to a new country, it's kind of like you start really thinking, well, can I still get that? Can I still have access to this? All the things. And so in the end, it's a whole new thing. It's a reset for you. It's like, how do I get this? And oh, I didn't think about that. Simple things. It could be as simple as when I first came here, I was a strict vegan. And I was able to buy products in the United States that were vegan based and plant based. And for me, I came here thinking like, oh crap, like I feel like I'm actually going to have to make every single thing from scratch, which I had a lot more time on my hand, but I honestly just didn't want to do that because cooking plant-based, it's a lot of prep time, believe it or not. If you're trying to be creative, basically, you want to recreate something that you like from a flavor standpoint. Not just, okay, I made, this vegetable, rice and beans or whatever. No, if you really are trying to be creative. I remember making my own mayo from chickpea liquid, from the liquid that's in the chickpeas. You can actually make vegan mayo out of this. Things like that. And so just a whole, like, how do I have access and you can't think of everything, right? So being able to come here again and have the reset, but have people that you can ask those questions of and all the things. It just helps you continue to be better and heal from things in the US. And I know, I'm trying to make it all make sense, but so a lot of times people are leaving, right? Because they're trying to get away from whatever, whether it's the stress, the anxiety, they're dropping their jobs, they're tired of whatever, or they're just ready to be like, I'm gonna enjoy my retirement. But we're still healing, right? Because we go to this new place and we're still healing. And sometimes in that new place, if it's not somewhere we're able to really fully communicate, it can feel isolating, So all of these things to me play a factor into the psychology of moving and being somewhere else. And I think when you have the ability to be in a space where it's like, all right, I'm here, I made it, I'm healing, I no longer feel burnt out, or I'm on the journey of recovering from all the decades of stress and all the things. You want to still be able to be in circles where you're like, oh, I can see myself doing some of the things these people are doing, or I can see myself traveling with them and hanging out and having dinner and inviting them over and going shopping with them. There's so many beautiful women in our community that do these things, because they tell me about them. They're like, oh, I'm going to the market with so-and-so, or I went to a concert on the weekend and it was really good. And, I get invited to things all the time. I can't always make it, but it's that. And honestly, I didn't really have that in Florida. I really, really didn't. I went out when I wanted to hear really good music and stuff. I could go out. Maybe I had one friend or two friends that I might meet up or whatever, but I didn't have like a community or a circle of people that I could really lean into and have a more of that village experience. And I've talked about this before as well. And in addition to all these like things that we might be healing from is, things, for example, in my case, getting a divorce, that's also very real. It happens, things come up, and relationships, dynamics of relationships can change drastically, or get stronger. You now may have more time for each other and you can do more things together. So it's one extreme potentially to the other in terms of the relationship aspect and why we're here, or why we are finding ourselves maybe a little different. And I've spoken on my scenario, my situation, I think it was over a year ago. So if you're looking for that, please go back and look at that video if you are somebody who is in a relationship. And I'm not, again, I don't say these things to be negative at all. I say them to be realistic. When you're moving together, I think you need to have those hard conversations of, what if this doesn't work out for us together in this place? What are our plans from there, right? There are a lot of single solo people who move here, so that's a different conversation with yourself and your family, and making sure you have plan Bs and friends and whatever in case something doesn't work out for you, because it's a real thing too. But I also think that couples and families really need to have those hard conversations, because I have seen that as well, and I'm also someone who experienced this as well. But in saying that, is all of that ties into, am I healing or am I ripping Band-Aids off after I get settled in? So those are things that I think moving abroad really brings to the surface in so many ways. And, maybe we're so used to our routine at home, and then like suddenly, you're here and you're like, oh, okay, I did all the things. I got my house, I got moved in, I did all the stuff. And now it's like, oh, okay, what next? Yes, there's stuff to do. There's a lot of hanging out, but you're not hanging out 24/7. I mean, maybe you could, but it's like, there's so many things that are part of that. And so there's that process of the new chapter, healing from all the things from the past maybe, or behind you, or that you've moved away from. But you still want to make sure that you don't feel left in like outside, and that to me is the difference between moving to a space where you can tap into community faster, as opposed to, oh, I moved to this very remote part of Mexico or this very remote part of the world. I don't know the language and it's a little harder. Yeah, there are people who want that type of challenge, and those people will typically be all right. But I think that being radical sometimes may not work for everyone. So I think that's important. Point 4, well, before we do point 4, Khadijah says, when I've traveled, I think that was always the hardest thing, feeling a bit isolated when others are speaking their language in a group. I learned how to overcome by learning keywords. Absolutely, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I understand a lot of Spanish, and I can kind of hold my own, but honestly, I still see, the division. I still experience the division. And when I say that, it doesn't mean they don't want you to be a part of it. It just means sometimes they don't always know how to act with you. And I'm going to give you a good example of that. For example, of back in early June, I talk about Sandra all the time. She invited me to her daughter's communion. And she lives way, way out, right? And I absolutely enjoyed myself. I loved just being in a different setting. It was very different, and I've been out there before, but I went out there, we went to their church, which is, Catholic. I'm not Catholic. I've been to some Catholic, type services, but it was packed. And, people were semi dressed up for this. She was very dressed up in her very beautiful gown, so much so I didn't even recognize her at first because I'm so used to seeing her here. And it was just really nice, to be there. And I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago too. A dog came walking into the church and just sat down in the middle aisle and just chilled. And I was just like, this is so cool. And then we went over to her house, which was right there. She had one of those like kind of tents and things set up. And, I went with a friend and Miss Delia, and we really enjoyed ourselves, but it was still kind of like, this table over here, and everyone's very cordial. We all said hi, maybe a few questions here and there. And then the ladies that were preparing the food, they were in the kitchen or inside the house, and the kids were like over here playing. And everyone kind of, kind of comes around. They want to make sure, like, they're sort of more catering, want to make sure you're okay. But the communication, the languages are barrier. It's not anything else. It's that. And so sometimes it's harder, I think, to be in those groups. But if you're able to say a little more, it kind of breaks the ice even for them. Because I think sometimes when I start talking to, let's say, a worker that Sandra brought for an event, and my Spanish isn't great, but she gets me and she understands me, and they will kind of look, and I could see the like panic almost on their face, like, like, I think I know what she said, but I'm not sure. And then they'll kind of look at her, and and then I'll make a joke. I'll say, "What's wrong? You don't understand my Spanish," or something like that. And then it kind of breaks the ice. So I feel like that's kind of a normal thing for us to experience, but I think it's also important, again, if we can be as open as possible about it, that would be great. It helps, it really helps, embracing it as much as possible. It is exhausting. It is mentally exhausting. Sometimes I think to myself when I'm trying to translate things that are being sent to me, like long text messages, I can read it and I'm like, okay, yep, I know what that is, but I want to make sure I have the full gist of this message. And I think about how many times that I did do that in a day, and it's time, right? And sometimes I think, I really don't, I just want to not have to do this, that's my own fault. I don't necessarily have to if I had put in a lot more time, studying it, but it's still something that happens. And I think that we can sometimes feel a little bit isolated because of it. So that's a great point. Kadisha says, I'm not about that remote life. I need community. Same. I can travel remote, but I need to come back home, right? And also, so true, there will always be a division. It's awkward at times, but it does happen. So I think we have to just embrace that. And I believe that's why people who want to live abroad typically will go to maybe more foreign heavy places, because they're still going to be able to find, something that feels very relatable, or have their creature comforts and all that. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's the reason why I talk a lot about San Miguel, and not just Casa ELM, because Casa ELM is a catalyst to understanding the soft landing in San Miguel, but San Miguel as a whole. I felt that way when I came here. I felt that, I can do this, because immediately I would go to a restaurant or grocery store and someone always wanted to say something or talk. And I think that just breaks ice all the time. Like, you're constantly with the icebreakers. And I think that that's a huge plus for us. Angel, how do you personally at this point overcome the language barrier? And for me, honestly, and a good question, thanks for asking that. Honestly, The language barrier doesn't feel like a huge language barrier until I go to another part of Mexico because just like with the United States, people have dialects as well in Mexico and wherever. So, the way people might speak Spanish in this part, it'll sound a little different if I go to the north or if I go maybe to Mexico City or wherever. So sometimes that's a bit challenging because I'm trying to say what I'm trying to say. And sometimes I know what they're saying to me, but maybe my response isn't as clear because I'm so used to talking to Sandra, and she just kind of, she'll correct me, but she pretty much allows me without being like, strict teacher. And I'm a part of the problem. I'll say I'm a part of the problem because I am not, I'm in no way a perfectionist when it comes to things like that because I just don't want to put that much pressure on myself. So I tend to learn better if I'm using and doing and I hear it and someone says, no, it's this word. And now I realize how much I actually can say and understand. And I have a lot of Mexicans who's like, oh, your Spanish is good. And I'm like, oh, is it really? I don't check it because I don't really, I just tumble. I always call myself the tumbleweed. I tumble into, I tumble into the language. I remember taking a class years ago and I was with a few ladies and one of them, she just kind of kept saying, like, I want it to be, my sentence structure to be perfect and all that. And, the teacher basically said, you have to learn like a child, right? Children are not speaking perfect sentences in any language. They're just saying what they want. One word turns to two words, turns to one sentence, turns to a paragraph, and all the things. So we have to be able to do that. And that's for me what I've done in addition to the classes I took before. So I do encourage taking classes and understanding not, and I always say understanding who you are, how you are, but also understanding how do you learn, what works for you. What works for me is being here. Again, I keep saying this, boots on the ground, talking to people, having to talk to people, right? My Spanglish, and just, I can do sentences and then I'll get to that one word and then your brain will literally find another word for it. It may not be the word they would use, but it's also not incorrect, And so, for example, when I'm trying to ask about outlets, I'll just say, loose, which is actually light. And yeah, and she knows, she'll just say, oh, and I'll say, what is it again? Or there's certain words that I have a hard time with, like the word that, represents noise. I think it's ruido or something like that. I just have a hard time with that word. And I think I have a really hard time with it because I don't know how to spell it. So if I knew how to spell it, then I'd probably know how to say it. But every time I get to it, she corrects me. And the next time I get to it, she corrects me and all the things. But the point is I can find other words to substitute. And I found that my brain starts thinking about, like I can create a whole sentence, even if it's not the right sentence, but the meaning is still there. The context is correct. So I think that we all have to understand how we learn and what works for us. So if you're a textbook learner and you want to write it out and you want to read it and all those types of things, you have to understand that's your style. And then you need to find a person who can teach you that way. For myself, I want to hear it, I want to see it, I want to struggle through it, I want to sound like crap, and I want to ask questions, and I want you to tell me what it is because I don't want to read about it, because if I see it, read it, and all that, when it's time to apply it, then I'm going to overthink it. And that's the part that I had a hard time with in college. I was always overthinking the sentence structure. And then it was exhausting because their sentence structure is very different from the way we structure our sentences in English. So sometimes you just kind of have to forget that and really start memorizing vocabulary. Okay, so if you have any other questions, let me know. Khadija, I will probably speak some Spanglish, yes. And I will probably back you up. So the other point is the power of in-person connection. The power of in-person connection, highlight why, why is this Why is this important? I think it's important because think about watching a movie, reality TV, things we see. We're all like, if I look at a picture or I watch something, I watch a video or I get information, and you also watch video and you get the information. The interpretation is still going to be a bit different sometimes, right? Because I'm going to be like, oh, this is what I understood. Same, right? And that's why I always tell you all, everyone's journey is different. The blueprint is going to be different for everyone. But being able to go to a thing in person is giving you the more reality viewpoint of what would this feel like, or how did I feel when I got to this place? For example, for myself, again, I'll give you all my experiences, but when I came here, well, I came in 2005, as I've shared that with you all before, and it was a very different place. I was also in a very different place myself personally, and I really didn't see myself here when I came in 2005. I was much younger and I was just kind of like, what am I supposed to do? It was a much slower city. When I came back in 2017, I had a very different perspective on the city because I remember reading about it and I was kind of like, I watched as many videos as I could. There were not a lot of people on that looked like me talking about living. There were people who had visited. There were a lot of videos about visiting, traveling, the top 10 places to see, the places to eat, and all the things. I was looking for families that had children that were talking about their experiences. And the few videos at that point, this was in 2017, 2016, beginning of 2017 maybe, the videos that I found were kind of dated. They were a little bit old and not overly relatable. And I remember thinking like, gosh, and trying to find information online as well was very difficult compared to the United States. So in the United States, you can go on Google and find a lot of things. And here, if you go on Google and you type in a name of a business, you might get a picture of a brick wall or something weird, a car parked in front of an abandoned parking lot. And you're just like, huh? What is this? Is it open? And it'll say it's open, but it's just not updated. So I wasn't really, finding a lot of the things that I wanted online. And I just kept thinking, I have to go. I got to get there. I need to be there in person. I need to, feel it. I need to see it because I'm now kind of thinking back, like, what was it like? And I was like, there were dirt roads there in 2005, like around Central. There are none now around like Central in terms of where you drive and stuff. But I was just like, I need to get there. I need to see it. I need to, not like keep imagining all the stuff. I need to physically be in this place so that I can understand the dynamics and what I think it is it what it actually is. And so this is the difference when you're able to move. This is the power of being there and being in person. Coming to Casa ELM, it's like people come and they're so sweet because I'm here, I'm talking to you guys, right? And then they'll get here like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm, finally getting to meet you. I've been watching your show, la 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 la, for a long time, or I've been following you. And I'm always humbled by this. I really, truly am. I'm like, oh, that's amazing, And I think to myself, well, what was I talking about 2 or 3 years ago? Because I'm also evolving too, right? I'm also growing. I'm also understanding what needs are and things like that. So it just always makes me smile. But when they're here, it's a whole different thing. It's questions like, hey, can I flush toilet paper? Can I eat these things? Is this going to upset my stomach or whatever? So you coming to your place to visit, research, do all the things, to me that's like that's it, right? You researched, you did all this other stuff, but now here you are, you're there, that's the point, right? And so be in that 25% or 30% of people who actually go, who actually pack up and move, who actually try things on, who actually say, you know what, I don't know if I'm going to do this. I don't know if I want this indefinitely, but I'm going to try. I'm going to go and I'm going to give this a try. And that is the power of being there in person, making that connection. And that's the thing that I always say, like, we're here, right? Casa ELM is actually a physical brick and mortar. You know, I do this online. I talk to you online. There's lots of people who do the same or similar things. You know, there's like a lot of information you can tap into. There's videos and people who are, YouTubing and all those types of things. But in the end, when you land in that space, that's a whole nother thing, okay? And having that courage and that faith to do it is a whole other step. And being able to meet people online and go through those steps and processes and then get to your final thing, which is moving abroad or trying it on and making sure it makes sense. Those are the things that I think are the power of being in community and connecting and being like, oh, okay, this is for real. I've had so many people, even recently, this past couple of days, they say, oh, I thought that people were just going to say, oh, San Miguel is so nice. And they're just talking about it. And, it sounds so amazing. And it seems like everybody's just like happy, happy, happy. But maybe it's not quite that way. And then when they get here, they're like, oh, it really is this nice. Oh, I really did enjoy myself. And you can't know that for you until you do it. Okay. So I think it's really important to understand that dynamic. And if you plan on moving here again, what we do is here at Casa and then extended to this concept that we have for Hacienda is being in community as you're aging. You might be still active, but maybe you just don't want to deal with all the things. You want to be in Mexico, but you don't want to necessarily deal with all the things that come with Mexico. This is a great way as well. It's supported living in community. So I will drop the link for our introductory offer for Hacienda again, so you can have that. Welcome, Abundance Now. Saludos. Gracias, buenas noches to you. So what has community taught me? That's the last point that I have for you all before we wrap this up. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them there. And Angel, I just saw your comment. Yes, you got me at Querétaro. Yes. So with my last point is what community has taught me. Honestly, I've always been about community, even with my family. I spent a lot of years and time when my dad was alive, really working on how we can be closer together. I always wondered, like, how come those families are doing family reunions? I want to do an annual family reunion. We never were consistent with it, but we did do quite a few of them, and everybody enjoyed themselves, and it was such a rave and all the things. But I do believe that a lot of the commitment that people make in a family starts from generations prior, right? How you were raised, how close were you to your parents, then you create that same bond and that continued thing. It's the same when you're building community as well, and being a part of something we're this tree, and then we start to branch out with our roots, and we start to branch out with our branches and our leaves, and all of this starts to become a connection that we all kind of in common share. And so what has this taught me? For me, it taught me that people honestly do not necessarily want to be alone. and I'm saying this from my standpoint, and I'll give you an example. Quite a few years ago, before I had Casa ELM, before I really became an official consultant mentor for people who are looking to relocate, to move, before I started my consultations in general, I remember in 2019, so about a year after I moved here, I had quite a few people of color who reached out to me. They found me on Facebook somewhere along the way, and they kept asking me about, I'm interested in moving to Mexico, and I want to know, are there any black people that live there? Are there any people of color? And I remember being very bothered by the question because we're in Mexico. And I kept saying, like for myself, I had not given that thought. And I'll get to the point of why I'm saying it. I had not given that thought of seeking out, a black community, an African American or Afro whatever community in Mexico, because in my mind, my experiences in coming to Mexico, it was Mexico. And, I had not really spent a ton of time in cities like Mexico City. Probably I could have said, oh yeah, come on, like let me go look for that community or whatever. But I remember saying to someone like, man, why are people asking me this question? I don't understand, like, la, 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 la. I didn't understand it. And I remember this person said to me, and it always stayed with me, they were like, your experience is not their experience, and vice versa. So there are a lot of people who may not have moved around as much, and they're moving somewhere and they want to find things that feel relatable to them, right? They want to go somewhere where they don't feel isolated. They don't feel like a fish out of water. They don't feel like, oh, why did I do this? Like, there's nothing about that, viewpoint or that experience that person is talking about that relates to me. And I remember that stayed with me because I'm always thinking about where's the next adventure. I don't care who or what it looks like. I didn't think about those things in that way because that was not my experience. Now, when I heard this comment I listened to this comment and I thought, okay, people want to know and they want to get information and they want to be educated on things, and that's where my journey started, with educating people about my experiences and my channel. Especially, I was talking about this about a week ago in a networking group here, and I was saying how people didn't really know that there was an interior to Mexico. A lot of folks still just think of the beaches and Cancun and, the West Coast and all that. And I remember when I started talking about moving around Mexico and traveling, and I just wanted to make, these cute videos that was capturing and making a story out of it and all those things, and capturing all of those experiences. So I wanted people to know, like, you can move to Mexico, you can do all these really amazing things, and here's what those things look like. And that came from me understanding better what other people's experiences were. And that, for me, is another thing in bringing people together in spaces like Casa ELM and Hacienda ELM. It's like, okay, you know what? Maybe you don't want to get on the plane by yourself and just land in a space and not speak the language and not know how to get around. And sometimes for older people, not know how to use all these 1 million apps. I used to be so bothered by apps. I'm not that old, but honestly, it took me a little while to be like, okay, get this app and get that app and this app. They drive me crazy, but I can understand how someone a bit older than me may feel, especially going to a different place and maybe wanting to feel like they can land and feel like this is familiar to me. So all of these things are really important, and they play into our individual blueprint to living abroad, moving abroad. What does our experience look like? So these are the personal things that I've learned in this journey for me, being here over 7 years, is what has being in community taught me. It has taught me that everyone wants to feel a part of something in general. It doesn't mean that someone who's introverted wants to necessarily be overwhelmed with being in a crowd. It just means that when they need to tap into something, that it's there and it makes sense to them. And then there are those who, yeah, social butterflies, they want to go out, they want to do things, they want to explore, they want to travel. And it's so easy to make, these friends and get connected here. Hi, Lisa. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Yes. So I think that those are the things that really help us, make it all make sense, living in the community, leading, being a part of, the growth, and, creating space for other types of things where people need to be supported, for whatever it is, whether it's mental health. This week, someone shared with me a group that is for seniors. And I thought it was amazing, right? I have Hacienda Elm, but the group is for anyone who wants to volunteer to check on older people who may not have many people still around them or in their life to check on them. Or if you want to sign up to have someone come and check on you. And I love that. I really do. I think that we need that. And that is a big part of, just making sure you're staying in tune with yourself and life and your mental health and things like that, where you don't start, becoming too isolated and all the things, it can make you feel vulnerable if you're not in touch with people. And that's one of the things that I've really learned since I've been here. That's what it has taught me. Community is important. And even though I love to do things alone, I like to go out and travel with my kiddo. Like, I can do that all the time by myself. I'm good with that. I love hanging out with him. I love our little nuclear family. But I also love when people come here and, they grace the house with their energy and their positivity and their, just love. It really, really is something special. And I just have to say that it's really a joy to witness other people thriving when they get here and doing their thing. And I know that it's a challenge sometimes, but I just want to say that it's so worth it. It is really worth it. But still make a plan. Still make a plan. For me, it's worth it. I am very grateful to be in this space. And as I said earlier on, I feel like I've done a lot of things in my life. I've done a lot of businesses, some that have been amazing and some that have been a struggle and some that just never really made it off the ground. I am a serial entrepreneur, but I will say that this one feels like I'm walking the most in my purpose, as I said earlier tonight. So I really think that, this is something that you all need to make sure you're trying it on, doing your thing, but making sure you do your homework and understanding who you are so you can find those spaces that work for you, okay? Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. I see your message, Khadijah. I wanted to schedule a consult, but I didn't see any times available. Will you be offering it in the future? Yes, absolutely. I'm not sure why that's not showing up for you. If you can send me an email here, and then we can do it for you manually. Okay, and I'll check the website to make sure that you're able to get in there. But yeah, always send me an email to info@casaelm.com or haciendaelm.com. We do check them. I have an assistant, and she and I, we check our messages, and we try to get back to people as quickly as we can. Okay, I hope I get to see you all next week. As I said earlier, we will have someone who will be on to talk about relocation in Merida, and also a more international person who is based out of Mexico next week. And that's what this week is all about. You're welcome, Khadijah. And this month, not this week, this month is all about getting the help you need to relocate, getting the assistance. At the last week, I think, the last week of the month, I'm planning on bringing on a psychologist to talk about, and I've had psychologists on here before, but I want to bring someone on to talk about just some of the emotional things, the psychological things that can affect people individually, and a family unit and things like that, so that you can kind of start thinking about the bigger picture of all of it. Okay. All right, my dears, have a great evening. Thank you, Delia. Thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate you all so much. All right, have a wonderful night. Don't forget to hit the like button. Kia, I really hope I have the money to come visit and go to the conference. Okay, likewise. All right, we'll talk soon. Take care. What are you talking about?